So we are glad tonight to be able to present the Birch Creek program. And with that, I want to just simply let Dave Long, who is with the organization, to do the introductions, and then we'll get into the program. We are videotaping our program. If you ever want to see a program again or take a copy of it to some of your organizations, down in the History Center, we have a videotape DVD library. You can check out these programs. And this will be videotaped. That's why we have to use a microphone, because everything goes through the system. And by the way, I forgot to mention that if any of you are interested or need hearing aid help, we do have some loops over here. Just turn that on if you have one and see how it works. Last item, Shar always says, you forget the contribution box. If you are willing to contribute, that's fine. Our programs are free. If you want to get official t-shirts, you can also buy one of those. So after the program, some items over here, and yes, some snacks over here. So with that, Dave, you can have it.
Now, one of your first questions is going to be, why am I introducing the people from Birch Creek? Well, I was born and raised in Door County, in Egg Harbor, Township Road, in Sevastopol and Egg Harbor, so I've been around this old part of the world for 18 years, and after college, and then after 50 years later, I came back, Door County, good old Door County. And I recognize a lot of former people I went to school with here from Sevastopol and here and stuff. So that's the main reason why I guess I'm here right now, is doing the introductions to stuff. And also, my wife, esteemed wife, Pat, is our sister to one of the co-founders, Fran Dutton. So that's another good reason why I'm standing here. Okay, with that, I would kind of like to just say that I'd like to introduce you to Jenna. She's our executive director at Birch Creek. And Bob, one of the persons that works there, and very hard too. And I can't even remember your title, Bob. But you do a lot of different things. But these are the two people that really keep Birch Creek going. With that, I'd like to let you go and let them carry the performance from here on.
Well, thank you to the Egg Harbor Historical Society for having us. I hear this was in the works before I started in February in my position here as executive director, so I'm glad that it's finally happening. It's a thrill to be here to share with you something that is happening in Egg Harbor's own backyard. So first, for my own benefit, I am new to living here, although not new to Birch Creek. I, in the mid-2000s, attended 3 or 4 summers as a student at the symphony session, and then after that I was a teaching assistant for 6 summers, and so I right up until last summer, and then I took the interview for the job and got it and had to pass off one title and take up the new one. So I would like to know how many of you here tonight live in Egg Harbor. Excellent. And then keep those hands ready. How many of you already know about Birch Creek? Okay, that's pretty good. That's excellent. Usually I get to that question and all the hands disappear. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get our word out and get people more familiar with what we do. So I'll go ahead and start with some of our more recent history, and we'll kind of work backwards from there. So Birch Creek is a performance-based music education center. And so what that means is that I think it's a little more practical than your typical music education, where you're maybe doing more detail work, one-on-one work, skills-based stuff, but this is on the art of actual performance. And so we try to get these kids as many performing opportunities as possible, because the big question that Jim wanted to help these students answer is, can I do music for the rest of my life? Can this be a real career for me? And so his dream was to pair working professionals, and so I'm not necessarily talking about, although they do go on to become the Hilary Hahns and the Count Basies of the world, but everybody starts somewhere, and so he wanted to help pair active performers, active teachers with these students who are aspiring to become exactly that. And it's a really unique relationship, because most people are limited by their location, right? You're limited by location, you're limited by resources, you're limited by who knows who can help you meet somebody new. And so his vision brought all of this together into one place to kind of get those young minds started. And so over the years, the vision and mission have evolved to meet the needs of the current student base. So our current vision, I will read for you. Birch Creek Music Performance Center will be nationally recognized for its excellence in performance-based musical education and becoming a premier arts destination in Door County. And the mission is to engage and nurture promising young and adult musicians through immersive performance-based instruction in a professional mentoring environment. By empowering them to achieve their full potential, we foster excellence in musical education and performance and enhance our reputation as a leader in the field. So I'm going to show you a quick little video here. And this is available on our landing page on our website. And it was done 15 years ago, something like that, as a little get to know Birch Creek.
Birch Creek is a unique summer music school and performance venue located on a 40-acre farmstead in Door County, Wisconsin. We provide talented student musicians who are exploring music as a career path with advanced training and mentorship. Plus, they receive the opportunity to perform publicly multiple times alongside top music professionals from the United States and abroad. Birch Creek's music education programs drive our efforts to advance the instruction, appreciation, and performance of live music through 4 two-week academic sessions. Our percussion, steel pan, and world music session starts off the rhythm of the academy. The collaboration of esteemed educators and devoted students creates musical beauty in a variety of different ways. Through mallets, steel pans, drumskins, and cymbals, program participants learn and perform a variety of styles from traditional, pop, commercial, jazz, and more. Symphony Session is the largest academy program, full of a variety of orchestral and chamber music opportunities. This experience turns students into stars. For every 2 students, there is 1 professional faculty member teaching and performing side by side all aspects of professionalism through artistry. Summer swings on with 2 sessions of big band jazz, each with a different sound and style. Students play just as much as any touring group with a variety of performances in both big band and small group combos. Come feel what it's like to gain lifelong musical relationships while taking both your section and solo playing to another level. We invite you to join us for a summer of captivating performances and career-enhancing knowledge. With our world-class faculty and beautiful location, Birch Creek makes it easy to focus on your craft and embrace the joys of learning and performing. Visit our website to learn more and apply online today. We look forward to seeing you at Birch Creek.
Okay, so how do we do that? A lot of programs are focusing on educating an ensemble of students all of the same age. And what we're able to do here at Birch Creek is to put those performers in the same ensemble as the students. And so they're getting these really unplannable moments with that staff. How am I navigating this rehearsal? How am I dealing with these interpersonal relationships with these people that I've never met? But we all share this common foundation, this common passion. And so by really seeding these professionals and students next to each other actively performing, we're able to educate them in that performance-based culture. There's so much about a music education that doesn't really become realized until you leave the classroom and you get your first gig out in the real world. And that's where you learn all of the performance etiquette stuff, because it's different when you're in school. You have a different set of expectations. Your director is running things a certain way, but you don't know how other people are operating because you're in the same boat as the person next to you. And so these teachers are able to both provide the skills needed as they assess students coming in. They can see areas that need improvement. They can see areas where these students are really strong and can give them those more one-on-one instruction-based skills, some attention, but they can also catch them, like, oh, how many days has it been since you've had your pencil in rehearsal? I caught that, I saw that, and I'm sitting maybe 3 chairs behind you. Somebody in another section is as aware of you in the violins as they are of their own oboes, or somebody in the basses. Everyone in camp is invested in your potential as a student. And so our students are engaging in skills-based activities, but most of their day is performing or preparing for performance in some way. We have 3 sessions, but they are each 2 weeks long, and we have 4 sets of them. So starting off our summers now is our percussion, steel pan, and world music for 2 weeks, and then we go into symphony session around the 4th of July, and then we have 2 different 2-week sessions of big band jazz, and each of those sessions brings in a totally new set of students and a totally new set of faculty. And so each of these areas are able to focus in on their specialty. I'm not going to band camp as a percussionist necessarily if I'm trying to get into an orchestra, maybe if I'm trying to get into military band. But then, if I'm looking for a real orchestra experience, I'm seeking out an actual orchestra. A lot of these string programs are also incorporating solo performance and chamber music, and they're looking to round you out for college. But Birch Creek is trying to extend a little bit beyond that to help open that perspective into what the career becomes. What am I investing in when I do go to school? What am I looking for? And so we're pairing students with faculty that are active in their field. Percussion, we have a lot of, across the board, we have a lot of university professors, people who are playing in professional level ensembles. We have members of the Minnesota Orchestra, Count Basie Jazz Orchestra, people playing at the Lincoln Center. All of our faculty are just embedded in their community and able to give that enhanced perspective specific to that collection of students. So looking at what we were able to do this year, we served 184 students from 15 different states. We were able to get out as far as Alaska, South Carolina, Texas, and even Trinidad this year. 86 highly qualified professional musicians came in and coached those students. And so we are continuing to maintain that 2-to-1 student to teacher ratio. And if you look at other similar programs, they're hitting maybe 8-to-1 or 10-to-1. So there really is a teacher everywhere. And which means that there is so much more of a resource available for these students to have those discussions, to ask those important questions, to take those extra lessons. We had 32 ticketed concerts on campus, which attracted an audience of 5,720 unique ticket buyers, as well as 32 free outreach concerts throughout our jazz sessions, which attracted an additional audience of 3,300. And so those outreach concerts you may have seen them around if you go to the Sister Bay shows during the summer, or you're in Bailey's Harbor, or hanging out almost anywhere in the county, you might find our jazz ambassadors, and these are students who have applied to the session, been accepted, and then when they arrive, they tick a little box on their audition form. Now, the audition part sounds a little scary, and a lot of the kids do get nervous, but we want to make sure that they're going to have the best possible opportunity while they're here. We want to make sure that they're not coming in too young. We do accept around 12 or 13-year-old on the low end through graduating high school, but every year is different. We might have a ton of 17, 18-year-olds, and if that younger student isn't comfortable with that age gap, then we want to make sure we're sliding them in the best possible time. So we were really trying to evaluate these kids. And so these ambassadors come in and they've already auditioned and they've already done the work. And then we say, okay, well, we want to hear you play again. It's been a while since you sent in your tape. And sometimes they need a little encouragement, but these are the all-stars of these all-stars, and they play in their own separate ensembles, so they're not in the big band on the stage most nights. They're playing in a little combo all around the county, 15-ish concerts per session. And so it's been an incredible opportunity for us to get out into the county and to meet you guys and have you guys meet us. But I think it's just such an incredible thing that these kids do. And the music changes all the time. When you're in percussion, we're ramping up to a lot of different things. When you're in symphony, you've got a whole big mountain of music they give you before you get there. And then in jazz, they're like, okay, well, we're going to try this one today. Let's try this one today. Let's try this one. Okay, let's play this one tomorrow. And the kids are freaking out a little bit. But it's just an incredible environment for them to be able to see this many people come through and to play for them. Their performing experience up until this point is mostly school concerts or youth symphony, and so that's bringing in mostly parents. It's bringing in mostly people who are already on your team. But here, they're able to really prove, like, yeah, I did really make those people have a great night. They, coming up and saying how much they enjoyed it. Sharing those experiences is really, really special when it's somebody that you don't know. This year, yes, our scholarships grew. We have an incredible endowment going. We hit $1.6 million in the endowment this year, and a lot of that endowment is named scholarships. So $160,000 were added to that endowment this season, and we awarded scholarships to 124 of our 184 applicants. So about generally 60 to 70% of our students receive some kind of financial aid. Scholarships are merit-based and needs-based. So if you are just tearing it down, you're winning competitions, you're playing all over already, we will help you come and enhance those skills. If you don't have access to those resources, we also want you to come and enhance those skills. And we have such an incredible community of giving, helping to get those kids here and on stage to have this incredible experience. We also have an annual concerto competition, which celebrates 2 of our musicians at the symphony session. It is audition only and volunteer. And so they come play their solo for a panel of our faculty, and then 2 winners are selected to return the next year with a scholarship to perform with the orchestra, which is an incredible experience as a young musician to be backed up not only by professionals, but also your peers. We also have adult programming.
So I just wanted to take a break for a second and say, did you catch all that? Any reactions? Any thoughts?
Or questions?
It's a lot. It's absolutely a lot. 2-to-1 ratio, students to teachers. They're in rehearsals, 8 hours a day. They're working with these folks side by side, and they get more attention in 2 weeks at Birch Creek than most likely most of them get in their career in high school. They get more performance time in 2 weeks. So there's a real kind of, to me, I see this kind of cadence, and just, there's something about performing together that brings everybody together. And so these kids, not only do they grow musically, but they grow personally as well. And some of the best growth, I think, is there. But any reactions? You all have been to concerts. I'm guessing some of you have at least been to concerts. How are you impressed by what you see? And let me take the mic back here.
Well, I just wanted to ask, how many, do you have a pretty good turnout from Door County students, or are most of these from outside of the county?
So the question, do we have a lot of Door County students? And in fact, we don't have a lot of Door County students. And I think one of the reasons for that is that I think there's this perception that the kids that go to Birch Creek are too advanced for them or something.
Yeah, that's been some of the struggle. We had one student from Door County this year, and we do have a special scholarship set up through the Raybrook Foundation to bring almost on a full ride 2 students, and I couldn't give it away. And so I think that there is this bit of a perception. I think when it started, people were thinking about it as a stay-away camp for kids in Illinois. It started small, and it started with well-trusted colleagues. And so Jim was bringing up people he knew from the American Conservatory, people he'd worked with, people he trusted, to really mentor these students and see if it would work, see if it would happen. And so that first summer, I think it was maybe 12, 16 students, a skeleton crew compared to what we have now, but we're still trying to break through that perception of that this place isn't for me. And so a slide we'll have in a second might be a nice starting place for us there, but we really do want to engage more of the community. I've had a really great few conversations with local students who did eventually come. We send tickets to all the schools so that kids can come for free to come see concerts over the summer, but we know we're also battling with that that need to save up for college. There are so many of our students here that have summer jobs, and it's hard to take off for 2 weeks. And I mean, all of you probably know how hard it is even just to get some vacation time from your regular job. And it's even harder as that student thinking about where they want to go, what they want to do next, and making sure that they have the resources to get there.
So I just want to add one thing, and any other thoughts or comments or questions? One thing I wanted to add is...
We got one more.
Is that the majority of the students that attended Birch Creek go into music performance, music education, or music business. So there's this really remarkable impact that Birch Creek seems to have on the students that attend. So I think that's a pretty great story.
Yeah, about 80% is what we've been measuring the last few seasons. And then even more than that, continue to play music in some way, either taking non-major lessons or joining a community ensemble.
A question I wanted to go along with my previous question was, do you have an opportunity to go out into the schools? I know this summer program and school's not in session, but do you, maybe some of your faculty members hang around or can come in and make a visit to Southern Door or Sevastopol or even Washington Island? I know the history of Door County High School music, in my opinion, is pretty strong, and they do a good job in their music programs throughout the county. I was just wondering if Birch Creek has any opportunity to feed into that.
Yes, we do have a slide coming up. It's called Artists in the Schools, and this was a program started somewhat recently in which we try to bring in a group of musicians that will have an impact on the instruments present at the school. So it usually ends up being a jazz ensemble or a mixed with percussion that we're able to send in and give performances and master classes and coachings, and that so far we're usually scheduled in the fall. Bob and I wanted to take another look at the program and see if we can really start to expand it a little more or tailor it a little more to really meet the needs that the students are identifying as barriers to attendance here. I know that the jazz programs are really strong, the band programs are really strong. We don't have as much of a place to send in terms of recruitment or supplementing programming strings because there's no orchestra. So those representatives are a little more out in their own communities there, but we are really trying to bring in at least one group of our faculty a year to come in, tour the schools, talk to the students, and engage with their programs. We're also reaching adults now. In my time before being executive director here, I was a more active orchestral musician. I had a quartet that would get booked for weddings and dinner parties and all sorts of events that needed some background music, and I taught. So not only taught here at this summer session, but I had my own private studio. I was teaching group violin and viola lessons in kind of a Suzuki El Sistema style setting, and some of my favorite students of all time have always been adult learners, because learning never stops, hopefully we're learning something every day. And music, I think, is such an important part of our social tapestry. It is one of the arts, I think, are positioned in a way to really help us understand ourselves, to help us understand the world around us, and to help understand the people around us. And so there's this desire to continue that camaraderie, but it kind of drops off after high school if you don't have a community ensemble there to welcome you in. And so we have opened up a lot of adult retreats. There are 3 so far: wind ensemble, which usually follows our last week of jazz, chamber music, and piano. And so we were able to bring in almost 100 adult students this year to continue their music education, to continue their fellowship with friends. And so we've seen the band has really grown. We had, I think, 55 or 60 participants on stage, not including our performing assistants and faculty associated, and that is up from maybe 30 or something the first year. And then we have additionally 20 faculty that we bring in across these sessions to provide coaching and assistance and perspective, and then 3 free public recitals, which we were able to attract 237 people, which is pretty good for afternoon concerts at the end of tourist season, I think, and they continue to grow. One of the things that I love so much, every time I'm looking up stuff about how we're doing, it keeps getting better every year. And so we're hoping to keep up that momentum. I will skip the artists in the schools since we have already talked about that. But there's a lot to do. So this place grew, like I said, from very, I would say, humble beginnings. It was a labor of love. It was a labor of passion and of meeting a need that was identified in the 70s to really help guide. I mean, musicians are fickle beings. We want what we want and we like what we like, and you're kind of hard people to pin down because something fun or interesting or meaningful comes by and you latch onto it and you kind of run away with it. And so over time, this amazing structure has grown up around it administratively to help support that mission so that the artists can keep being artists and not have to think about all of this crazy other stuff. So at this time, we have, I think we're at 18-member board of trustees. And so they meet pretty much monthly right now, talking about the organization, what we need, where we're going to go, what we want to do. We have 8 year-round staff, Bob included, so director of development and operations. We have a marketing director, facilities director, full-time maintenance staff, our registrar and office manager, who is an absolute angel, and I think the glue holding us all together all the time. And then additional support staff in the office and in bookkeeping that help keep us running all year long to get ready for these kids, because our enrollment begins on December 1st. So we're already launching next year to help get all of these kids into the room, as many of them as we can. We also have 3 academy program directors that serve as kind of our artistic guidance. They are the ones who are overseeing the programming, the faculty, what goes on stage, and what I guess moral perspective is kind of guiding the development of the career of these young students. With over 140 seasonal faculty, counselors, interns, kitchen staff, and shoulder season artists, Summit takes a village. And so we welcome about 15 staff who come and live on campus for 11 or 12 weeks all year. We're serving 3 meals a day out of our kitchen. And most students are coming in on a Sunday afternoon and starting auditions and rehearsals the next day. I'm like, 8 a.m., a time that I promised myself I would never play my instrument again, not until after 10. But these kids are going 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. or 8:30 p.m. every day for 2 weeks. And when they land here, they're in rehearsal for the first time on a Monday, and their first performance might be that same week on a Wednesday or Thursday. And then they have another one, and then they have another one, and then they have to get ready for the 3 or 4 the next week, and a free family concert, and playing for you before the concert starts, sometimes at intermission. There's so much for them to consume. And then on top, an incredible network of volunteers. We have 140 volunteers active on our mailing list, and we saw about 100 giving at least 5 hours of service this summer. Alone, and which also continues to grow. So if that's something that interests you, I would welcome you to go to our volunteer page to take a look at how you might be engaged. It's a super fun group of people. I fell in love right away. We have hit over 2,000 hours so far this year, and we still have one weekend of concerts left, as well as some other supporting activities. We have a fall cleanup, kind of put the campus to bed day coming up, as well as some office support activities that will continue throughout the off season. And so we've estimated the value of that volunteer service so far in the independent sector is $69,244. So this is like 2 whole people working all the time to help support this institution. And this is our ushering support. This is our concert production, concessions, merchandise, groundskeeping. We've partnered with the Master Gardeners this year to really put Wisconsin native plants and some sustainable planting on our campus to really kind of, I don't want to say return it to nature, but to make it more homegrown, make it more Wisconsin, make it get a little more of that natural beauty, which I think was one of the most amazing things about being a student. When I drove up here the first time, you watch the bars tick down on your phone, like half a mile onto County E, and then it's just you and the little mail corner next to the kitchen, and there was a rotary phone where you could go call home, and yeah, I'm still here, Mom. No, I didn't go wander off into the corn and get lost. But at that time, the corn came right up to the barn for years. The silo was still there. I did the math, David. David and I were talking about the silo. There used to be a silo on the side of one of the barns, and it was there until the east side of campus went in the mid-2000s, and so I did see the silo for a couple summers. So campus has changed a little bit, but I think the essence of it has stayed the same. There's still so much of what I loved as a student is still there, I think in a really pure way, and then you've seen how all of that grew and blossomed into something really incredible today. We are supported by an incredible, this whole community of giving. Our funding comes from student tuition, which right now is underwritten by our Play It Forward annual fund. $2,400, so that's $2,300 in tuition and $100 in an application fee is the burden on the students, but $2,700 is offset by our Play It Forward campaign, which is an operational fund which allows us to help provide the food, the lodging, the electricity, all of the stuff that the kids need while they're here. We're also supported by just Goodwill general donation. It can go anywhere, and you can also direct it if you're so interested. Our ticket sales, and then also support from the Wisconsin Arts Board and National Endowment for the Arts. And so here's just a little way. We have recurring giving. We have, as I mentioned, this wonderful endowment which has grown a lot over the last 10 years. And each of these funds helps us target different areas. So some of this money that we draw helps us pay for our faculty members. Some of it helps pay for our scholarships. And some of it helps pay for campus improvements like buying a new van or fixing the roof on the barn, other things like that, as well as what we get from our program book advertisers, which are incredible. And I would encourage you to come to our Christmas concert in December. There are still tickets available, and pick up a book and see kind of what's going on. We put a lot of history in there, and you'll see a lot of the county in there. We really try to get people engaged with the county while they're there as well. And so there's just this incredible network supporting all of these students for the joy of music, for the joy of what they give back to the community, and for the potential that they will have in our future as a people together, you know? We have to pass the torch at some point, and we really want people who love this to be as set up as possible for their future as they can. And so I really personally attribute this place to my own success. I didn't know what I wanted when I was this age, but I knew I was good at the violin, and people told me I was good at the violin. But I was all over the place. I wanted to be a meteorologist. I wanted to be a storm chaser. Maybe I could be a veterinarian. Maybe I should just go and learn actual rocket science or something. You know, I was getting into all these crazy things that I liked. But these were the first people who said, hey, if you actually really buckle down here, you're going to have a really great time, and you could really do something with this that reaches not only scratches your own itches, but that really helps other people. Because music does, I think, have this kind of social healing power, and we need these artists, we need these musicians to go out and help us understand the world. And so these were the people, Robert Hanford and Sheila Hanford and the Mantels and all of these, Ricardo Castaneda, who if you've been to a symphony concert, you know is still here. And he was program director when I was a student, and 28 years later, he's still program director. And now we get to work together as colleagues. And it was the most incredible experience. After my first year, I went to Chicago with my parents, went downtown, we went and saw Wicked when it was running off Broadway, and I looked down in the pit, and who do I see? Ricardo. And all of these other people that had just been playing with me up at camp. And what an incredible connection to not only be able to say hey, that person taught me some really cool, useful stuff, but also we've played together. I've been on a stage with that person, and they trusted me in that performance. And so it it gives so much confidence to those next steps, so much direction to, I do really like this. Or you can come in and say, well, I've been thinking about, I really like this kind of music, but I don't see anything like that out there. And they might say, well, I don't know that I do either, but here's maybe how we can get you there. Have you ever thought about this, or this? Or do you know about this and this and that? Because it was also at that time a little bit pre-internet, so you weren't necessarily Googling or finding everything on Google if you were finding it on there at all. It was still really people connection, and I think music has retained that over time, that you show up and you have one really great day, and all of a sudden you've got 50 new friends that are going to invite you to a whole bunch of other stuff and want to work with you. And so I've been to a lot of other camps. I did the University of Illinois one year. I'd done some day camps, and I just didn't want to go anywhere else. I was begging my parents to come back every year. And the only years I didn't come back, my orchestra was on a cool tour in Europe, which is usually why the kids don't come, because their school band is doing something cool. But I couldn't wait to come back. And then I thought my dream came true when one of the faculty asked me to come be a teaching assistant. I was like, oh my gosh, I've been dreaming of this since the day that I left. I've always wanted to come back because it was such a meaningful place for me. And then now I'm here, and I get to be here hopefully as long as I want. As long as they'll have me, but I just couldn't think of a happier place to be supporting these young people in kind of living their dream. And that was one thing I talked to Fran Dutton a lot this summer with. She still comes up. Jim got sick in the 90s, and so they kind of broke away from the camp a little bit there, but she still lives in the A-frame across the road during the summers, and comes and hangs out with Dave and Pat and us there on campus. And she was talking to me a lot about Jim's dream, about the dream for these kids all summer, and just what an incredible legacy to be able to carry for the next, however many years, and hope it kind of goes on forever.
I've got a couple of things to add. So I want to take a pause again and say, you got any reactions or thoughts about this? I mean, this is 3 miles away from here. Yeah.
Well, I have one. I'm very proud of what's done at Birch Creek, and also all the students who come, but we happen to know one of the teachers and have known her for many years, and she comes, and this is a highlight of her life, and knowing her, I know she's just giving all to these students, and that they're she's the only one we know really well, but I'm sure that the rest of them are doing the same thing, because they wouldn't be there if they didn't feel that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other comments? Anyone?
I've always been aware of the Birch Creek as a performance center, but I think what I'm learning tonight more is how the students learn to be performers, not so much how they learn to play their instrument, which of course they have to do to be performers, but I am impressed that that is the focus of Birch Creek. We have also gotten to know one Marty Robinson from Birch Creek, and his daughter Kelly, who volunteers during the summer. So we do have a connection.
Gotcha. I could tell you about a funny story about Kelly and Marty. Last year, Kelly graduated from St. Norbert's with a degree in trumpet performance. And I was invited to go to her recital, which she probably regretted a little bit. But at one point during her performance, as she was talking to the audience, she was talking about why she chose trumpet. And so her father plays trumpet and is the head of jazz at the University of Wisconsin, Oshkosh. And she said, I don't know why I chose trumpet. She said it was my choice. And way in the back in the audience, I said, yeah, right. And afterwards, I said, did you hear that? She said, yeah, I knew it was you too. So I'm from Sturgeon Bay. I graduated from Sturgeon Bay High School. I went away for 40 years like David. I was in Arizona. I came back a couple of years ago, and I've been here for a couple of years. And I think the thing that I'm amazed by with Birch Creek is that, first of all, there's like this crazy high caliber musicians at Birch Creek, like unbelievable musicians in every one of those sessions. But the other part about the success of Birch Creek is how the community embraced the musicians and how the community embraced the vision and the mission of the organization. And when I say that, the thing you've got to recognize is that for years and years, what genuinely kept Birch Creek going was not the musicians necessarily, but it was all of those people in the community that stepped up and said, hey, this is a really cool thing. They need our help. And for years and years, before there was a board of trustees and an executive director, there were a whole bunch of local folks here that volunteered and gave real time and energy and pulled out their checkbooks even, and really kept this thing not just surviving, but I think really thriving. So this is where we just celebrated the 50th season of Birch Creek. And I think that's a pretty remarkable accomplishment for this little farmstead 3 miles away, you know? And I want to give Lynn a big shout out. She's been one of the anchors of Birch Creek for years and years. And we have a board member here, Eric. So Eric's also our volunteer communications person. And the last thing I want to say, yes, ma'am. Oh, okay.
Maybe you'll get to this. Of the students that leave here and they go on to either being professionals or semi-professionals, do they ever come back as instructors, or is that something that you're looking at?
Yes, they
part
do.
Of the mentor program, or?
Yes, and so I think we see a lot, especially in the teaching assistant positions, because what's really extraordinary and I think hard to see from the outside is that there's really education in music at all levels of what we do. You'll see teaching assistants who were former students who are now master's or doctoral candidates who are just beginning their careers coming back, and teachers are going, oh, okay, they had a great time here, they understand the mission, they were moved by what happened here. Now they are starting that career and we can give them even a little more experience, but now it's teaching experience and mentorship experience. We also this season welcomed in a ton of incredible alumni to come be soloists as part of this 50th season celebration. So I think one of our most famous alumni, Harold Jones, who went on to be the personal drummer for Tony Bennett and was touring with him until the end of Tony's career. He also performed with Ray Charles, Sarah Vaughan, and was the drummer for the Count Basie Orchestra a few years even after he made his first appearance at Birch Creek. We also welcomed, if you are an enjoyer of symphony orchestra, Mary Elizabeth Bowden, who is a founding member of this Seraph Brass. Seraph Brass? Oh, I'm dropping the ball here. It's an all-female ensemble, and one of the first, and I think the first in the brass world, which has been typically male. And we Matthew Lipman, just one of the most in-demand viola performers. We were actually students together for 1 year at camp at the same time. And two former students at session are now both in the Minnesota Orchestra in prominent positions. And now one is our concertmaster, Alan Snow, and the other is our principal cellist, Sonia Mantell. And Sonia and I were roommates when we were at camp. So there's just all these incredible connections. And you see all of us continue to be friends. And I'm watching it happen actively now. I tell them that they can't friend me on social media until they know they're not coming back. As students, but then once I start following them, they're still hanging out, they're doing projects together, they're getting involved in their communities together, and those relationships continue forever and ever and ever. So we have, a list that's too long. We could never get all of those people back here, but we try. We try as hard as we can because we know that meaning has been really embedded in the people who come through our doors, and that they will continue that tradition when we welcome them back in.
So I just wanted to add a couple of things. On your chairs, there were a couple of bits of information, and one was kind of a history of Birch Creek from the very beginning, with kind of some pretty significant milestones that were included kind of in this timeline. And then in 1999, one of the Tischlers who homesteaded the place wrote a letter and kind of gave us the history of the property, which I think is absolutely fascinating, and reads kind of like a family tree. And then if you really want to look at Birch Creek history, we brought David along too. Okay, here you go.
Okay. Okay, close enough? Okay. Birch Creek, like I said, has been around for 50 years, and I can remember meeting Jim and Fran back in '75 down in Chicago at, I guess it was an engagement party. I think there was our engagement party down in Chicago. And one of the first things that Jim asked me, he said, "Do you know of a real estate agent in Door County?" Because he knew I was from Door County. And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Jim, I think I know of a couple up here." We got more than that nowadays. But I said, "Yeah, I know of a couple up here." He had an idea at that time that he wanted to do something like this. He wanted to have a school, but he didn't know where he wanted to do it. He thought about maybe here, Wisconsin Dells. Maybe he had another location, maybe in Aqua or Tula. And I said, "Oh, no, Jim, Door County. Door County's got a place you got to go." Anyway, I was excited about it. Here I have an in-law that's interested in going to Door County. So now we'll go ahead now into October, September. And October they bought the A-frame across the street. And then Thanksgiving time at that time, Jim took me, and father-in-law and a couple other people over to the barn. And he clapped his hands just like this 3 times. And he says, "Isn't that acoustics great?" And I thought to myself, wait a minute, Jim, we're in the barn here now. I grew up in Carsville area. I was a dairy farmer. My dad was a dairy farmer. and I grew up in the cars area. This guy wants to play music here? He said, yeah, we can play all kinds of music here. And I said to myself, wait a minute. He had talked to Henry already, Tischler already, and Henry at that time was ready to sell already. But I thought to myself, this is all crazy. This is all crazy. Well, look what this craziness has led back to. I mean, we got 50 years later, and we're still here, and look what's happened. Anyway, like I said, this is part of the things that can happen from a little barn like the Tischler farm. Look at it's developed into 50 years later, we're all doing it great. Okay, thank you.
We have some incredible aerial shots of campus in our administrative office, and it's crazy that we had those. And so one view is, I think even before modification to campus had started, it was in the mid-'70s, and you can see that it is the two barns set like this, and working barns, cows in the barns until it was time to play music. The original farmhouse on the property, the original granary on the property, and then corn. And the corn was there for a long time. I remember the corn. I remember the field being a lot closer and you feeling like you really are in the woods. And now we've kind of expanded out a little bit since then, but it's been incredible to see the journey this year. We prepared this beautiful timeline of kind of how campus evolved. And so it did start, they modified the doors and everything, and had added, if you've been there now, you know that there's these two wings off the side that are now sheltering an audience that was previously under a big awning. And so at Jeff Campbell, our program director for the jazz sessions, was actually telling me that back then they had to angle the band on the stage. So instead of playing straight, kind of parallel with the edge of the stage, they were angled so that the people outside could also see the band. And I was told a funny story. So it started as percussion and guitar, and then the guitar kind of petered out a little bit, and then it was percussion and jazz. And the age range was more mixed. I think school was still a little looser in structure. And so you had kids playing in the ensemble who were still young, so the same kind of age range as here. But then you also had the college students as participants, and then the faculty on top of that. And so it turned into, as I hear it, kind of this like rowdy fun, like everybody loved coming out to hear jazz in the barn. And then eventually orchestra was added. And it started as a pops group, kind of small chamber size. So it's not the huge, I don't know, we stuffed like 80 people on that stage. I don't know how we did it. I always sat behind a pole, so I had an easy job. Nobody could see me. But I heard a story from the former director, Brian Groner, now emeritus, and he comes back to visit every once in a while. But he was saying they were practicing in there, and all of a sudden they hear beep, 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 getting closer and closer and closer. And they're going, oh my gosh, what's happening? The cement truck was there to pour the floor in the barn. And Brian says, well, do you mind giving us a minute here? We'll be done in maybe an hour or something. And the cement truck driver goes, oh, don't worry, you won't bother me. And they just start pouring the floor right there in the middle of rehearsal. And I think there have just been so many like funny, heartwarming little moments like that, because it was really built up by the people around it. It was built up by the people who loved to be there. And so, well, I think this is going pretty good. We had a great set of concerts. What's next? What do we want now? How do we expand? How are we going to grow? And so from those 3 little buildings, we added in the 80s, we added a dorm, a real dorm. People were stuffing themselves into the farmhouse. People were sleeping across the street in the A-frame. And I remember stories about campers, trailers popping up places, trying to find people places to stay. And so we met that need. We built the dorm. And so it started as a gathering space. It had practice rooms and sleeping area upstairs. And then eventually the kitchen got added on because they were cooking out of the farmhouse kitchen, a tiny little residential stove feeding all these hundreds of people all summer. And so you can really trace this history through, it was meeting these needs. needs. It was meeting these people with what they needed. The concessions was on carts outside, and I'm hearing stories from Lynn and other volunteers who remember building the carts, and then who had to come out and put the wheels on every time and haul it out to where it was supposed to sit, and then you got to take it apart and bring it back, and then they built up what we now use as our med shed, where we're dispensing medication for students while they're here on campus, but then that was the concession stand. And then the granary, when I was a student, was the boys' housing, and so we had bunks on the bottom floor, bunks on the top floor, and I think it started to be a little feeling like we were bursting at the seams. It was so packed in the space that was there, and so this incredible campaign started in the mid-2000s to build what is now our east side of campus, the Miller Music Center. I think originally known just as Juniper Hall, was I think the first official kind of named space on campus, and that building includes our off-season performing space. It is fully winterized, so we can keep having concerts in there throughout the year, and it added more dorms. And so then the granary moved from being kind of this storage sleeping space to our concessions and gift shop. And now we house some counselors in the upstairs, and we still have counselors in the farmhouse. There's kind of people still, you open a door and you're like, oop, this is a dorm. But it's always grown. It's always grown to meet the needs, and it's always grown because I think of these kind hearts that have loved so much the experience of being there. It's because it's not just about, watching somebody who might one day be famous. Like, of course you hope you know that person. Of course you hope that person loves you very much, and then they're going to send you tickets someday. But it's about that community that grows up because then you love going to concerts with those friends. You love following these musicians around, not just in the county, but then hearing about what they do all year, and they come back and they tell you stories, and it really does have this family feeling that I haven't found in a lot of other places. I think it is getting harder and harder to make that connection from the stage to the audience. It's something that my job before this, playing in a lot of orchestras, you see and hear a lot of things, and you start to get involved in how decisions are made. But then I was also working as a manager for an orchestra, and I was doing kind of all the jobs. So I was finding where we rehearsed, I was finding all the gear that we needed and the people we needed, and going through contracts, and only the blue M&Ms in the dressing room today. And you start to realize how disconnected I think sometimes the performing community gets from the people who are engaging in the music, who are coming to show up to your concerts. And so it's been this big question in the industry, I think, in the last 5 to 10 years. And it's something that Birch Creek has always done so well because it's always been so accessible, because it is connecting people at all of these levels, from the production of concerts to making the concert happen to the audience that is coming and engaging with you. And really it closes that whole loop up here. And I think not only does it help for the performers, to be talking to the people who enjoy their music and talking about what they like, but you learn more about what people need, and you learn about what they really do like. Is it Brahms that is really bringing you here, or is it because you're like in love with the bassoon section? And I think it's okay to really be in love with those people who are on stage, no matter what's coming out of the instruments. And that's something that you learn here at Birch Creek. And so the growth continues, and I won't give away any secrets or talk too many things that aren't real plans yet, but we've added so much to enhance that experience. So this was a place where I really got to love vinyl. We have an amazing listening library with cassettes and 78s and all sorts of stuff, where you can go listen to other people, but we also have been keeping a great record of historical performances at Birch Creek. So at the time, it was kind of unheard of that I could play a concert one night and then the next day there was a recording of what I played that I could go listen to with my friends. And so we'd sit and talk about how it went. Oh, wasn't this part so cool? And listen to how good like Susan sounded on this solo and all that sorts of stuff. And so as camp started to expand more and more and more, and we added more and more stuff, we've been trying to accommodate more and more in terms of the education. And so we added a piano lab in the early 2000s. We have really bolstered up kind of what happens. You know, it is well water, but now we have a beautiful UV filtration system for the water on campus. And, you know, it's really growing. And so the big question around campus since I started is, what does Birch Creek want to be when it grows up? And so I think it's an important question we keep asking. When you compare our history here with others in the county, I know there were a lot of anniversaries. Some had 90 years, some are up in the 100s already. And so we might still be a little young in this group of legacy organizations. But what I hope is that we never stop asking that question, that we really never think like, oh, we're done. We've reached it. Because I don't know that that really happens, and I hope that it doesn't, that we'll always be asking what's next, what comes down the road tomorrow.
So we have a short little video we'd like to close with, but I'd like to also share one other observation, and one thing that has always felt a little bit unfair to me. We have the concert barn, which has beautiful new lighting over the audience and over the stage, and it's really quite a remarkable performance space. And it's named after Jim Dutton, the founder. And his wife was Fran, and I guess at some point in the history, there was need for a ticket booth. So somebody donated an old outhouse that they converted into the ticket booth, and they named that ticket booth after Jim's wife, Fran. That just doesn't seem right to me. She didn't mind. So anyway, any final thoughts or questions before we run the video? Sure.
First of all, I'd just like to briefly backtrack to an aside you made earlier. I've been a meteorologist for over 50 years, and more than half of that time on television. You would be terrific.
Thank you very much.
And speaking of terrific, I mean, your enthusiasm and expertise and knowledge and leadership, I've never met you before, but it comes right out, and this organization is just very lucky to have you.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? One final thing I'll say, and I think one of the favorite things I get to do as a staff member, and I guess I need to backtrack a little bit and say I'm over operations, which also means that I'm over the kitchen and the food service for Birch Creek, and we serve up to 130 people 3 meals a day, 7 days a week for 12 weeks. So imagine what it's like to run a full-fledged kitchen for 12 weeks and try to get real help for that. So the last couple of years, I've spent an awful lot of time in the kitchen, but I've also gone to an awful lot of concerts. And then I see the kids in the line, in the food line the next day, and I look at them and I acknowledge them, and it's like, hey, you played that incredible solo last night. That was so awesome. And these kids just light up. And you know, I know I'm not the guy that makes the difference at Birch Creek, but it's like I see something shift in that moment in those kids. And you know, there's some kind of growth that happens at Birch Creek with these kids that I see it, and I've been in youth development all my life, and it's really quite a most remarkable thing. And I think if you were ever to come like to the first concert and the last concert in one of the sessions, you would see such growth in the kids. So it really is a pretty remarkable place. So yeah, Lynn.
Just to add on to that, I think that what kept coming me back was that was, again, this incredible warmth, and it's like some of these musicians and entertainers are all over the world. We have Joey Tartell that is a trumpet player that is fabulous in Canada and the United States, and this whole array of musicians. But these guys get down, you'll find them sitting on a bench. You come back year after year, how's your mom doing? Hey, how's your kids? I think it's that warmth, and I don't know what it is. We always called it the magic at Birch Creek, but it really is there, and I think that's one of the reasons that it's lasted for 50 years in the way that it has, because there's something that just happens, and it's such a personal connection, which is really remarkable.
It really is hard to find in other places. And I think it's a pact, honestly, that the teachers all make together. You know, they're not just bringing in some random person because we need somebody to play principal trumpet this session. It's this whole community that trusts each other, you know, ride or die. That these are the people that we want to surround these kids with, because it is a cutthroat industry. It's really hard, and it's getting harder for kids to self-evaluate. I think lately something I saw in my teaching was that they're afraid of mistakes. And mistakes are the only way that we learn. If we're only getting positive reinforcement, we don't know what else is out there. We don't know, like, not to touch that thing until we've touched it and it hurts, you know? And you can trust what somebody says, but experience is, I think, above all, the most important factor in this. And it goes beyond just the instruction received. It's the relationships you build. It's learning how to be a good colleague, a good friend, somebody that can be dependable, somebody that can be relied on, and somebody who knows their role, not just in that organization. You know, if I've got the melody, I've got the melody, but that director is going to say, hey, you're supporting somebody right now, so you got to act like it. And here's how you do that. And I think for a lot of kids, the here's how you do that isn't always what they get, that they only have time for, you've got to do something else, you've got to change, but you know, you can't really dive into what that change is, and there's not maybe as many safe places for kids to be exploring that and to make those mistakes. And so I think that is a huge part of that community building, is that we all know that we're all human. And it's everything, you know, it's the good and the bad. And so I want to leave you before playing this video. I just want to say, tell your friends, you know. If you haven't been, I really hope that you'll come sometime next year. We start typically mid-June and go all the way through early August with our students and faculty. And then our adult students come in and help us wrap up August. And then we also have incredible shoulder season programming where we are featuring a lot of our faculty coming back and doing solo performances, as well as hopefully some of your favorite local artists. And if you have suggestions about people and things and stuff you'd like to see, we would love to have them. And so I hope that you'll really take this home and enjoy. This is like an incredible letter from the Tischlers. I really love reading it. And I keep finding more stuff in my office like this to enjoy just kind of these anecdotes and history of the place. And we hope that you'll become a part of that legacy, because it is every person who walks through those doors becomes a part of this beautiful thing. You've made an impact on these students just by being there and listening to them play, and they appreciate that so much, and we appreciate that so much. So keep an eye out. Our tickets will come out in March. March 1st is usually that first day of ticket sales, or whatever that first business day in March is, and we're just hoping for an incredible season and that we can share that with you. So now this video we prepared special for the 50th season. It has interviews with our program directors, with students, with some faculty, and is just kind of giving this beautiful perspective on the last 50 years, and I hope that it leaves you excited for what we're going to try to line up for the next 50.
And I'd like to add, if you'd ever like to come out to campus and take a tour, just call the office and ask for the old bald guy.
Anytime, we are there year-round. I would call ahead just in case some of us aren't in the actual office that day. But we love to talk to you guys. We'd love to take you around and show you what happens.
Jim always had an idea to have some kind of a school. He wanted to start this camp just because he loved to teach, and he loved to see a student who didn't know whether he wanted to be in music or not, but he wanted to show him what music could be. Even in his career as a musician, he was still always a teacher, but he was also a performer.
It was a beautiful place, but it was pretty Spartan. It had mainly the farm buildings, the barn itself, the farmhouse, the granary, and then there was a dormitory that had been built later on. That was it.
My first impression performing and teaching at Birch Creek was all positive, and I left the place thinking this is something I would love to do again. I really enjoyed working with the students and with the colleagues. I mean, it's a fantastic group of colleagues. It becomes a family while it is.
I mean, we got faculty that have been here for 30 years. You don't come back if you aren't enjoying it or getting something out of it yourself.
Yeah, the students at Birch Creek have a unique experience because they arrive on a Sunday afternoon, and by Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock, they're in front of a live audience. That doesn't happen in any other, young person musical setting that I know of anywhere in the world.
I've had this question before. What is it that you guys do at Birch Creek? So-and-so came back and can't stop practicing. And it's like this extra charge of energy that the student gets here because it's like, oh, now I can see my potential.
I think just starting with the looks on the kids' faces when I see them performing and having just absolute ecstasy for the first time, experiencing what it really feels like when the band is cooking and you're cooking and everybody around you is cooking and the audience is moving around and responding to it. And there's nothing that feels like that.
There's so much energy in this barn. I think this barn has like magical powers. There's a lot of energy that exists between the audience and the performers, and it's not just the performers having a good time. It's fun when you get to look into the audience and see the little kids dancing and jumping up and down.
They're trying to figure out, do they want to be a musician professionally? Do they like it because it's fun? Do they like it because it's a social event? And this immersion process allows them the environment to discover where they find themselves.
For 2 weeks, students come and play side by side with faculty, rehearse side by side, and perform side by side, and they're getting continuous feedback as to their playing, and many things that they are not able to get during the year because of the time constraints, they're able to do it here because this is all they do for 2 weeks.
When people come to a concert, people feel it. Something just touches everybody off, and you can feel it through the whole audience.
When you go to a Birch Creek concert, you realize that you have a collection of fantastic musicians from around the country. They represent a high level of musicianship. You're not going to hear ensembles of this caliber in many places.
Yes, the acoustics of the barn are fantastic. There's a very simple structure, but any musician, give them a place that has good acoustics and the rest is irrelevant.
Jim would be so thrilled to see the number of people that have gone through here, the faculty and the students, and to see what students have accomplished just because they got a taste of making music as a career.
To be here with these great musicians is a treasure because it's sort of like the greatest hits. We all come assembled from other parts of the country and we put ourselves together in this group and we don't have the same experience at home. This place will change your life.
We really do get to know the students. We have meals together, we rehearse all day together, we work as colleagues. I think what inspires students to come to Birch Creek is that sense of possibility, that sense of accomplishment. If you're considering in any way becoming a professional musician, Birch Creek is a place for you.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm done.
You're done? All right, as president of the Historical Society, it's my job to thank our presenters for coming to Birch Creek, but I also want to give a little historical perspective. 40 years ago, many of us in this room made a living by working 2 or 3 jobs in the course of a summer and then trying to get through the winter. And one of those jobs that I had was to work at Birch Creek. And Jim Dutton had a way of making you feel important, so he called me the operations manager. I just cut the grass is what I did. But at the end of the season, for many of us, the income and the jobs went away and you made do through the winter. Today, we're fortunate enough to have many different cultural organizations that supply full-time employment to not just one person, an executive director, but to, like in this case, 6 people. And this is what makes Door County a diverse, vibrant community. And I'm proud to be on the town board of Egg Harbor, and we gave you $10,000 for your 50th, and wish you all the success in the future, because you're doing exactly what makes this community something special. And so here's a little treat for Dave. And Bob, you don't get anything because you got you're the star. But thank you very much. Thank you for your contributions to Egg Harbor, and we wish you success in the future.